Hey, you want to check out what's happening in alternative porn in France? Let me introduce you to Carré Rose Films. Founded by Carmina, a French-Mexican performer and longtime advocate for sex worker rights. This indie studio is doing things differently, putting performers first, pushing for diversity, and tackling industry issues head on, all of which keep all while keeping things hot and fun. One example, check out this series, 60 Minutes with. Carmina meets a fellow performer for 1 hour. No script, no plan, just sees where the moment takes them, and you get to be right there with them. Don't worry about whether you speak French or not. All films are either in English or subtitled, so you won't miss a thing. Curious? Head to carrierosefilms.com. That's Carrie rosefilms.com. Cams.com is a performer-run webcam studio working with models who want to make serious bank doing online sex work. Top Treasure Cams models are earning 100K plus a year, taking home weekly fat paychecks. We have a great affiliate program to reward you for any traffic you bring to the site. We help you set up with equipment, tech, sales techniques, monthly meetings, and so much more. Visit treasurecams.com to learn more about us and to cam with us. Have you ever been looking for an amazing queer cam performer? Well, I got you covered. You should check out TS Cami. Her super hot content is on Chatterbait, Twitter, Xhamster, and Reddit. Support this rad trans femme. Enter your fantasies. Big Fantasy is a porn star, stripper, femdom, and expert making your fantasies come true. Explore Fig's secret, luxurious world at AQUATAFANA collective.net and at Figs Fantasies on OnlyFans and Figs Fantasy on Instagram. She's waiting for you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Performers Pod. I'm Chelsea Poe, and today I'm here with Bella Vendetta. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you back again. And you're a sponsor of it this year with Treasure Cams again. You're really an OG sponsor and really believing in the podcast. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I don't realize until you're like, oh, this is how many seasons we've done that you've been sponsoring. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I guess it's an annual thing. We'll work it into the budget. I like it. It's always it's like part of why what you hope for being a queer creator is one day you can help someone make their cool things. So I'm very happy I can do that.
Yeah, and it also got us an AVN nomination for this podcast, which I was not expecting. I did not go into
Oh,
podcasting and be like AVN nomination.
awesome.
But we're here to talk about our movie Training of Poe. It's crazy. It's been 10 full years since we shot it. Like it's it was just such an amazing experience to shoot it and just so I think outside of the box. And I think it truly fits into a documentary format more than a porn.
Yeah, definitely. Looking back on it now, it's like I am actually how did we get it included in so much porn stuff when it is like more of a documentary film or maybe even an art film? Definitely a documentary film. I still call it docu porn, which I think is a good descriptor.
The last scene's very explicit.
Yes.
Also me dripping wet. Like that shit's so explicit.
It's explicit, but it's also shot you can't really see that much. It's really shadowy. It's shot kind of like film noir style, so I'm
Hmm.
super into it. Yeah, and well, we got away with a feature-length film that had one cum shot in it that happens at the very end, like in the dark.
It's a 2 hour movie, which is so ambitious for porn. Who
Wow.
is a 2 hour documentary porn? Like, even a 2 hour regular movie, I'm like, all right, this is kind of long.
But people watch it and they watch it more than once. I love that. They're still watching it.
So, what was going on in your life, let's say, a few months before that movie, and then I can share what was going on in my life.
Oh gosh, what was going on? I think I had just pretty recently gotten that dungeon above the apartment that I was renting, and that's where we shot the film at the time. And so I was like setting that up with ambitions to like run it, as kind of a commercial dungeon space.
Hmm.
A dungeon B&B is what I wanted to do there.
It very much had that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It was a really cute little apartment. It was like in walking distance to one of my favorite museums. It was like really centrally located. It had off-street parking, it had all the makings for it. And um I was dating that guy Bobby at the time.
Yes, you were.
Got that. And I was. That's the statement. He was this real big Marine. He was big and mean, and we had like a short-lived but really tumultuous and marking relationship for me. And um, shortly after we shot that, like I think when we shot the movie, we were like kind of in the honeymoon phase still. Like it was still kind of fun and sexy and cool. And maybe he even thought that it was kind of cool that he was like with like a porn chick. And I
He
think,
gave like porn star boyfriend energy for sure. Like
yeah,
1,000%.
yeah, I think it's like an important rite of passage for every porn star to go through that phase.
Hmm.
To have that. But it never ends well. It's never good. And in the case of like a big and violent Marine, that manifested to him being really angry that I had like shot porn in this fucking place, this like sex dungeon that I was trying to run. And like, who the fuck did I think I was? And um, one night when he was really drunk, he um, we got in a really big fight, and I like went up to the dungeon to get away from him, and he followed
Hmm.
me up and he kicked in the door and he took down the big glass dildos that I had on the wall and he chucked them at my face
Oh
until
my
he
God.
split my face open, um, and requiring 11 stitches. And I got away from him that night on foot, like literally left barefoot and ran.
Oh my
And
God.
called a friend who a girl I barely even knew, because it was like in the moment of who do I call? Like I didn't want anyone to know that I
Hmm.
had gone through that. I've never publicly told this story.
Yeah, we're both good. I'm totally down to go deep in this whole thing. Like because like is I said to you like before we started this, I'm like there's a lot of major life moments that happen from us starting this project to right when we ended all like the screening tours.
Yes, 100%. And when I started thinking about all the things that happened leading up to the lake, and when you said 10 years since we shot it, and I thought, but that's not when we released it. Oh,
No.
that's because let me tell the story of what happened in between.
Yeah.
So at that point, we had shot the film and it was in the can, and I was planning on doing post production in the winter when everything slows down for me. And this happened
Hmm.
in November,
Yeah, we shot this in July.
July, like
Hmm.
100-degree weather in July. And then I was ready to work on it for the winter. But in November, a few days before Thanksgiving, I got my face split open.
Mm.
And uh, I thought that I would kick him out because he was living with me. But he somehow, I got convinced that it was just because he was really drunk and he would just stop drinking and that would solve the issue. Also, I had two apartments that I was paying for. So I just went and stayed
Yeah.
in an apartment. And also, I had just signed on this year lease for this dungeon space. And I couldn't really afford to do all this shit
Hmm.
without help. So I felt really, really trapped. So we stayed in separate apartments for a while. And I had only told my best friend about that this had happened. Um, the girl who picked me up that night like was literally someone I had known from a bar a few times. I really barely knew the girl and she saved my life.
Hmm.
Allison, if you're out there. Like I literally, oh,
Oh.
And I told my best friend this, and so he was the only one that knew. He was really, really mad at me for like staying with this guy, and he just, I just felt like no one could understand like how fucking trapped I was.
Yeah.
I couldn't even, and I was a stripper as my main source of income, and I couldn't work because my face was busted open. I had this huge scar across my face. I had made up a cover story that because I did suspension and rock climbing, that a piece of equipment smacked me in the face, and everyone believed it without question. So that was my story that I told to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And um, a month later, the day before Christmas Eve, it got violent again. And I could tell this time he had gone to work and gotten drunk and then come home already wasted. And I could tell that it was going to get like crazy. So I just decided to like leave. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to the other apartment and I came because he was banging on the door saying that the dog got hurt. And he had beat my little chihuahua, my little 6 pound chihuahua, Rosa. He beat her because I wasn't there.
That's so fucked up.
And so I flipped out and he I said I was going to call the police.
Mm-hmm.
He took the phone from me and then I said I'm just going to bring her to the vet, and he ripped the keys out of my hand and said you're not going anywhere. So I attacked him and I punched him in the face 3 times, and he said watch this, and he called 911 and said my girlfriend attacked me. And the police came, and I thought good, the police are coming. Like they'll
Mm-hmm.
certainly see the situation for what it is. I still have like this fucking mark on my
Yeah.
face. They'll remember coming to the hospital when I was there. This is a small town. They'll
Yeah,
see
very
the
small.
guy is like huge, and they'll see the dog bleeding. They'll see what's going on here. So I just like sat calmly and waited, and the police came and they arrested me for domestic violence and they put me in jail.
Oh my God, I had no idea. I'm so fucking sorry you had this experience. What the fuck?
Isn't that horrible?
That's so horrible.
I got out of jail, obviously, and uh, I documented everything really well. I kicked him out. I went to court. The judge heard the whole story, and I got probation for 24 hours. And I remember my father calling me and being like, "Don't leave the house. Order Chinese food delivered. Do not leave. Don't leave the house. Don't get arrested." Like everyone was, it was really scary time, a really lonely time in my life. Like
Hmm.
no one knew about it. I couldn't tell anyone about it. And I was so filled with shame about it because I was Bella Vendetta. What the fuck? I had just shot this like epic fucking movie about me being this like badass mistress in the fucking mountains. And then I got my face busted in and I was too scared to fucking leave the guy. It was a horrible feeling.
For sure. That's
It
horrific to have to
is
go through.
why the movie took so long to come out because I couldn't work on it. I just couldn't. It was like I felt like such a failure when I would go back and look at it or think about it. It took a really long time for me to be able to do that. And then eventually, and then I was just like alone and single and like doing heavy fucking shadow work and therapy and like
Hmm.
rebuilding my life, you know? And then my grandmother got really sick in California, and I went out there and I said, I'm going to take an extended break and
I
I'm
remember that.
on this bitch. And I just like my grandmother was like in the hospital and then in a recovery ward, and I was staying at her house, and I sat just at my grandma's kitchen table, and I like took all the notes for the movie, and I watched all the footage, and I felt really good about it again, and I knew
Mm.
it was time to let it into the world.
Wow. I can't believe we both went through such heavy shit after that movie, like so shortly. So like before we shot it, everything was like trending upward for me. So I moved here in 2013 just to start doing porn. Worked at a kink armory, obviously. That's kind of how we got this whole concept because I'm like, I want to shoot for all these sites at kink. I want to shoot Public Disgrace. I want to shoot Training of O. But they're like, you're a trans woman. You can't do that, obviously. So right when we shot this, it was off my first BDSM nomination at Xbiz. Wait, no, 2015 was before that even. So it was just like my first AVN for like whatever stuff, and I had a little bit of BDSM experience. But it was like very much like everything was getting crazy where I was like traveling a bunch, doing all this stuff that I definitely did not expect to do. And we first met in the Bronx. It's the only time I went to the Bronx ever. It was like
Yeah.
for a suspension bondage thing
Yes.
at a space like that. And we did like an interview thing on a floor at some
Yes.
studio in the
Yeah. It's
Bronx.
like a college student for some podcast. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. And I don't even like remember how it came to be that we even like started talking about this movie and like doing it. I just remember like being like, okay, we're gonna do it in July, like second week of July. I'm like, this is gonna be intense, probably the craziest thing I've ever done. But I did Pride the 2 weeks before, and that was like full blown. Still, when I was partying Pride, like I flew some friends out from the Midwest. They did Molly for the first time. There's like orgies happening at
We're
Dolores
in your
Park.
porn star party era.
Yeah, like I wasn't doing drugs at the time, but like very high on weed, very like buzzed on alcohol, that sort of thing. Very much like public sex sort of thing. So I was like, oh my God, I'm shooting this crazy thing in like 2 weeks, right? So I remember when Jacqueline and I went to New York, it was like during a major like thunderstorm in Brooklyn, I think it was. There was like down trees, like literally blocking the road. And like people got out of their cars and lifted them up on our way to you. And I had a
Yes.
lot of experience in Massachusetts. Like half of my porn career has been in Massachusetts. It's the most random fucking thing.
Love that.
It's not a place I ever assumed I was gonna be. So, yeah, going into that whole thing, I was like hella nervous. I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck I'm getting into, you know? Like, did you think that, like, what were your expectations, I guess, going into the project?
Oh, like from you, I knew that you were
Or
gonna.
even just like you, like, just conceptually, like I'm gonna keep talking about my story throughout and like explain some deep shit that happened to me, but like just so like chronicle chronologically, like what were your expectations going into it? Because I was like straight up scared. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing into this. I'm like, I don't know. I know I like work in a building where there's a bunch of BDSM. I had a Dom, but like not like this.
I was really excited because I knew because I had been like following you on social media for so long. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd already gotten a good enough sense that you were like really deeply kinky and that you were having all these kind of porny BDSM one-off experiences.
Yeah.
I knew for myself how powerful it was to like have like get into some real BDSM shit, like some real heady shit
Real.
instead of just like, making sure the camera angle is good and
Mm-hmm.
making sure you say these few buzzwords or whatever. I wanted to just like I wanted to make this movie for a long time before I met you. I wanted to make a movie of showing what a real submissive training looked like with me. But um then when I met you, you were kinky and it was like that's the obvious person that should be doing this. But also she's trans. I didn't even really consider how that part of the equation, how it would affect the movie
Mm-hmm.
until we were talking about the marketing of it and distribution companies started saying this wasn't really a good idea and that no one was going to buy it and how I was marketing it was wrong and I wasn't using the right words and we weren't doing it right and I was just like we're just going to make it it's going to be so good. They're going to feel so stupid. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's what
Uh,
happened.
yeah. So I feel like that like we shot over 4 days, I think, 5 days, something like that.
Yeah. 5 days I think that you were there.
Also, like the city we're living in, I wouldn't even call it a city. It's like definitely a town. It's
It was
like,
a city technically, but it
but
the town vibes.
for most people, like it's very, very rural. We're in the mountains,
Mhm.
like probably like 10 miles from Vermont, right? Something like that. Like that it was just this like complete different space to shoot something, and that's what I've loved about shooting so much of my work in Massachusetts, like when I shot stuff in Cape Cod or Martha's Vineyard. Like it's just like so far out of what you assume porn is and can kind of get you out of that role. So I
Mhm.
think like that played as much of an aspect as anything else. And I remember after leaving that, we were driving back to New York because I was staying with them for I think like a week or something.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, cool. I had to get arnica on the way back because I had bruises and stuff. And it's like just average ass like New England boy was like, "Oh, why do you have those?" I'm like, "What are you getting arnica for? Like, did you beat up your boyfriend?" I'm like, "No, I did lesbian slave training." And he was like, "Shut the fuck up," and did not say anything. And I'm like, "Okay." So then I was in New York for like a week. I met someone who I started dating like literally the day after we finished the slave trading thing. Um, and just like did the New York thing for a few weeks. Then I went back to Massachusetts, shot a mainstream movie for Nika Noel, which is like the exact opposite of what we shot, I feel like. Um, and then after that, it was like, okay, cool. I shot this big thing. Everything was still like pretty fucking busy for me. And then it hit October, and I got a call from my family being like, "Hey, you need to come back to Michigan. Your dad's in critical condition." Like, fuck. So my dad really struggled with addiction, alcoholism, ended up homeless probably when I was like in high school. So I'm like, fuck, I kind of knew this was going to happen for a while. What I did not know, however, because I'm an only child, I was the one who had to make all the decisions. What I also didn't know, so I get back to Michigan. Um, I get to the hospital. I found out my dad has a partner, right? And she's also a sex worker, but she's a street-based sex worker. They were both homeless, and everyone in my family just starts talking so much shit about her, despite knowing my job and being like, "Well, you do acceptable sex work." So it was this thing where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm dealing with that. My dad's condition deteriorates. He always told me he never wanted to be on life support.
Mhm.
So we had to pull life support. He passed away in October. So obviously really traumatic thing to go through, very heavy, but at the time I was so in the mode of, oh my God, I have all this career momentum. I can't stop. Also,
Mhm.
my dad was always very supportive of me doing art, any kind of stuff. He's like, you should pursue it at all stuff. So I went into the really negative headspace of I kind of blame Lady Gaga for this, honestly. The whole attitude that's like, oh, you can just pour everything into your art. You don't
Mhm.
need to go to therapy. If you go to therapy, it's going to mess up your work structure and everything. So I
Right.
became a workaholic for the next like 4 years.
Yeah.
And during that time, I went into a super fucking deep depression because I wasn't getting help for obviously going through a super traumatic situation. I was literally back to shooting porn. I think I was literally back in Massachusetts like 3 weeks later.
Mhm.
And it was just like this continuous thing where it's like, okay, I'm gonna pour everything into my art. And I didn't know we were both going through this heavy of shit at the same time
Mhm.
because I feel like after we shot this, it was like, okay, it's gonna take a while to be edited. I didn't really feel like any rush with it because it was obviously such a big project. So I was definitely in that position of like, okay, this is gonna happen. I remember you being in California, you're like, hey, I need to take a break from stuff. I didn't know, obviously. And I don't think I was. I think on social media, I'm like, yeah, my dad passed away, but I don't think I really talked about the conditions of it
Yeah,
and like
talking
what was
about.
going on with him having a partner who was a sex worker, which was so, to me, I was like, oh, wow, he's actually pro sex work in that way that I did not know.
Mhm.
But also at the same time, just the rest of my family really using the hierarchy thing of being like, well, that's a bad sex worker and yours is fine because you're going to this award show and you're on this red carpet and you're going to travel these places, you know?
Mhm.
So I think it was just like that we both went through this like huge monumental thing right after.
Mhm.
I think is so heavy and I don't think either of us really fully understood the grasp of each other's situation, you know?
No, we didn't even know about it, you know, because there's just such a, and it's wild because that whole time, like I felt so much pressure just to get my shit together and finish this movie for the same reason, for this career momentum fucking myth that we have.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot stop, and if you stop, you lose it. You just lose it, and it's so hard to come back.
For
And
sure.
part of that is kind of true, but like part of it is just bullshit because I do not subscribe to that anymore. Like now, 10 years later, I run my career so very different than I
Mm-hmm.
did. And I have so many boundaries about work hours and work days and what I do and what I won't do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't have the FOMO and I don't have the like I must answer the email because if I don't a sale might lose I might lose a sale. Like the
Yeah,
sales are still there, the money is still there, the fans are still there, the people that give a shit about what you're doing are still there, you know?
it's completely true. I think also like the time in the industry, it was still
Mhm.
what we were doing was viewed as pretty crazy that we were self-producing this movie.
Yeah,
Because
it was
back then it was still you need a studio.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just like that we did something so kind of out of the box, especially then. I remember when we were there and like kink.com learned that we were doing that and they're like, "Oh, you're doing this?" Like one of the directors was like, "Oh."
What did they think about it? Were they
I
like
think they were like, "Oh, that's very interesting."
yeah, I think everyone just thought like, oh, that's nice. You know, like that's cute. You're doing this little movie. Oh, it's gonna be long? Okay. But no, like the movie, first of all, aside from the accomplishments and decorations that it has,
We'll definitely get to
which
that.
we'll
Yeah.
get into, I made money on that movie.
Same.
I made money on that movie. Do you know how hard it is to independently produce a film and in the first year turn a profit and then continue steady to make a profit on it for 7 years? The only reason I kind of like trickled off is because I stopped really like talking about it or
Hmm.
promoting it. You know, I I feel like we could go on and on with it. Like it's a classic. It's a gem.
Yeah, I still occasionally submit to film festivals just because I'm like, if you have a 2 hour block though, it's such a fucking good movie. Like, I understand why film festivals don't want to.
Me too.
I'm very notorious for kind of doing that to film festivals where I'm like, I have something that's 90 minutes, I have something that's 2 hours. Do you want to screen it? And they're like, do you have a 5 minute clip, please?
But it's kind of like listening to a whole album. It's like a lost
Hmm.
art. Like, there's a reason that the whole movie exists. One scene isn't as good unless you see all the scenes, you know?
Yeah, I think the editing process, like, I think it was so hard then because like I remember I had to buy a hard drive,
Oh my God,
send it to your I still have it somewhere. I don't know if it still I don't think it works. I would assume not. But I remember you having to send me the whole hard drive to be like, this is an edit of the movie. And I'm like, okay, cool.
yeah, that's how we did it. And then it was on DVD. We were like, I was like mailing DVDs to film festivals.
Wait, you were emailing it to the film festivals? That's crazy. I didn't know about that part.
Yes, there was at least a dozen film festivals I like mailed a physical DVD to. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it took, was it like 2 years to be released? Something like that?
Yeah, it was because yeah, I was single for like a year and a half and then I met my girlfriend who is now my wife. And she was with me when we released it finally, when it was like time to give it to the world. And it's funny because that's when we first started to get together too. So I don't think she was prepared for like, and by the way, I'm doing a film tour, you know, like
Yeah, for real. So it came out in
2017.
2017.
Yeah, I think so.
So right at that point was like right when I started. Was that? Yeah. So that was like right when I started like actually traveling internationally. One of my biggest regrets in my career is I had all these opportunities, but I didn't have a passport.
Mm.
So I had like all these opportunities and I just like never went anywhere other than the States. So I went to Massachusetts like 25 fucking times, but I never went overseas until that year. So like shit was starting to change for me. I released my movie Queer Porn Americana, which was the first movie I directed. So it was like, okay, stuff's opening up. It seems like, um, yeah, as much as I was still in the deepest part of my depression, I was still obviously making a ton of art and it really helped my career. My mental life, probably not so much, but that was like definitely kind of like the era I was in. And we, I think that's when it got screened in Toronto for the Feminist Porn Awards and we won that one first, right?
Yeah, we did. I
Yeah, we did.
didn't expect that one either, and that was cool. But I think it was so good they had to give it something, you know.
Yeah, they had to.
They had to. And I feel like we got an XBiz nomination for best BDSM film, which isn't
Well,
wild. It was the
that's
next
later on. So
oh, that's right.
2017 still,
You're right. Okay.
um, we have all these screenings in Massachusetts at like all these colleges and stuff that you set up.
Mhm.
Also, like the local press coverage of you there and how people responded to you in Massachusetts, it was like your from the outside perspective, it was like your homecoming that you're like, it read to me as I'm like, oh wow, you became a legitimate porn star, went to like LA, became famous, won an AVN, then came back to your hometown and like your hometown's like had actual like newspaper articles about our movie. You had like a was it like an old theater teacher who like went or something to one of the
I did.
screenings?
I did.
All these screenings throughout like Western Mass were like one was like in a theater that was showing our movie and like a Ben Stiller movie next door. And
It was
like
actually the same week that the Florida Project was screening at that little indie theater. I thought that was interesting when I looked back too. That was really
yeah.
cool.
And
Yeah, but it wasn't just colleges. It was there was several, but the one that you came to was like Williams College.
yeah.
Bought out all the tickets, like sold out the screening.
It was like such a interesting situation. Like I remember like it being a straight up full theater of like a lot of people. I remember like American flag hanging in the background. I'm like, this feels like the most like New England thing I've ever done. Where I'm like, this feels so wholesome. It felt like a Parks and Rec scene or something. Where I'm like, you went back and that you made that all that happen was like so special. Like, what did those screenings mean to you?
That's really cool to hear your perspective of it. Um, for me, it's important to note that the money to make the film came from stripping, where I would do this thing where if I had like a pet project that I wanted to put together, I would dance my normal schedule, but I would do one extra day a week, and whatever I made that day, I would throw to the project. So that's how I put the movie together. And then the screenings was literally the same. Like I remember that was also a couple of years later when the club started getting slow. So I remember how much harder it was to make like $500 to put together to pay, you know, for the screening and to print the materials and to have all the things. I wanted to like have it be as legit as possible and like all of the wonderfully crafted. And this is I'm today years old when I'm realizing this too. All of the wonderfully crafted press that we had was like I set all that up, and
Mm-hmm.
that totally informed me now in my career with treasure cams in the studio of how I run like press releases and you know how to get attention to projects and to hammer people over the head with it until they feel stupid for not paying attention because I'm talking about it so much, you know. Like yeah, the local paper interviewed my high school film teacher about like, did you ever think that she would make porn? And I think he was like, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
There,
very cool.
yeah, there's just like I felt like that was just such a special experience. And also like I don't do you remember when we went to the strip club like I think the day before in between the screenings on that?
Sort of, but like it wasn't what happened. Where did we bring you to center stage or
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was like the most notable strip club experience of my life.
really?
And I don't think you are aware of it at all.
No, please tell me the story. I don't remember.
So, first off, in Massachusetts, at that specific strip club, girls were completely naked and you could drink.
Yes.
And you knew everyone there. So, I think
It
I was
was
drinking for free or close to free. So,
it
I
was
was
center
very
stage.
fucked up. And then I'm obviously tipping the girls because, like, being a sex worker, I always want to make a sex worker's day better. I never want to be the person who's like, I have $5, you know? Like, fuck that. So one of the girls there was naked and she like I was sitting I don't know if it was at the bar, it was somewhere though, but she like tried to flip her legs over me and
Mhm.
I was wasted and she hit me in the nose with her pussy. It just like I was like, holy fuck. And then I was in a car with your wife and two girls who were strippers there. I don't remember their names, but your wife seemed pretty sketched out. Like, also, your wife is like a veteran, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, so they have like experience with real shit. And then like your wife looked very uncomfortable, and one of the strippers was like, "Are you gonna cry?" And just like started yelling at your wife.
I can't believe. Do
And
you know this story? You're gonna make me cry right now. Do you know who that was? I remember this
no.
because my wife told me this story. That that was my friend who's passed away now.
Oh.
She got shot on a fucking on some street violence bullshit in
Oh my
2020.
God, that's
Not with us
awful.
anymore. She was one of the meanest bitches I ever met in my life. She did make people cry all the time.
She had a coke nail that was literally this long, and I saw her take and just like clear it, and I'm like, holy shit, I was coming here to smoke a bowl. And yeah, your wife was like in near tears, and I'm like, I'm here, I'm fine. I'm
I
like, I'm here
remember
just to smoke weed.
my friend coming in after and being like, I don't know what's going on with your girlfriend, but she's like about to cry. I don't do with this crying shit. I don't do that shit. I do not do that shit.
Literally, that was it. I'm like, what the fuck strip club did you take me to? That's like my best strip club memories, though.
I'm so, first of all, shout out to Club Center Stage, RIP in Springfield. It is no longer. It was the best strip club in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Also, every stripper there was only like telling me about people who were like at the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield who then went to the club. So it was like, oh yeah, do you know Charles Barkley? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I she gave him a lap dance once and he
Here,
sucked.
yeah, that's
And I'm like, okay. And they're like, you know Wilt Chamberlain? I'm like,
so
yeah.
funny. I never tell anyone the names, but yeah, I worked for 13 years at a fucking mob-owned strip club down the street from the Basketball Hall of Fame. So anytime there was an initiation into the Basketball Hall of Fame, they would buy out the club. It was like the stories I have, I cannot even believe I lived through. It was like a real life rap video. That was what it was like in there. That shit was really going on. It was really, and I would never realize how wild it was until people like my wife, who's a veteran and who's been through some real shit, is like, your life is so crazy and scary. Who are these people that you hang out with? Are you a gangster?
It did make me be like that I wasn't shook by it because I'm like, I also lived in East Oakland at the time, so I'm like, I've seen shit. I'm fine. I'm like, this is just strip club shit. I'm fine, but yeah, they just kind of started yelling at your wife, and your wife cried, and I'm like, we should get Bella in a second.
I miss it sometimes. I miss
Um,
those times. I do. And we had to
so
be there because the club, that was like my family and like everyone knew that I was making this movie. And I remember when the movie came out, the DJ being like our resident featured dancer, Bella Vendetta, with her new film, The Taming of Poe. I was like, that's
That's just gonna be
so
another
proud.
BDSM movie I'm gonna do. There's just like all these things that's like something of Poe or of Chelsea Poe. That's like half my movies at this point.
Yes.
Um, so at that point in my career, like going into that trip, I was like, I don't know how serious I was about it, but I was so burnt out at that point with American porn because I
Yeah.
had my petition. All the trans girls like hated me at that point because they were getting gigs off of hating me.
Mhm, mhm.
So I'm like, okay, I had my Taylor Swift moment happen shortly before that, where a girl went on stage and attacked me for 15 minutes to open an award show. So
Yeah.
I'm like, fucking everyone
Iconic.
hates me here.
Oh,
So
you're just
having
an
that screen,
icon. You didn't know at that time that you were like literally turning into an icon. You didn't know that.
yeah, I did not. So I was like depressed off of losing family. So I was like dealing with that trauma. I was dealing with all these like girls who I felt like most of them were like 15 years older than me who were so mean to me. And porn was so mean at the time. So like having those screenings made me be like, okay, positive shit. This is real. There's people in real life. So right after that, I had one of the craziest travel days in my life. It was my first time going to the Berlin Porn Film Festival,
Mhm,
and I took a bus from North Adams to Springfield
mhm,
to like the airport,
mhm,
and then flew from there to Norway
mhm,
to Berlin.
mhm, mhm.
And I don't think I slept within the process. So like I was at your house the same day as I was like saw the Berlin Wall and shit. It was like super crazy. And I went to Berlin and I was like, I I thought there was a chance I was gonna quit porn. And
Mm.
then I met people there and they're like there was another film called I was working on my film Fucking Against Fascism at the time, and there was another movie called Fuck the Fascism. And I was like I was thinking in American porn terms, I'm like, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna try to call me out and shit. And then I hung out with them and they're like, oh yeah, we just like go around and like have sex on fascist graves and like piss on them and like just deface them and shit. And I'm
Cool.
like, oh fuck yeah, that's so cool. Because in the United States, everyone's like, you're too political. And then I went
Yeah.
to Europe and everyone's doing like the craziest fucking shit. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that's great. So then I got home. A week later, I met someone on Tinder and I went on my second ever Tinder date, and that's now my wife.
Mm.
So that
Okay.
we both have this project, the people that we ended up marrying right at the end of it, where before we were both like, I don't know, I was very much like, I had a long distance partner, like it was fine, but they were in like Australia for half the year. So that it went from these like relationships that obviously weren't going to work long term for us, just based off all that stuff. And when we finally finished this project, we had this, and then 2 months later, my wife went to my first award show with me, and that was the 2008 Xbiz Awards, which we were up for best BDSM movie.
Mhm. That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's also so crazy to be in LA, like in the middle of everything. It's like right next to Staples Center, and be like, oh yeah, this is the movie we shot in the middle of nowhere in Massachusetts.
Well, that's what I loved about it. And I'm glad that like I had the wherewithal to look at my work critically to see, because there was many years that I didn't see this up until the making of this, that the location was part of it, was part of the appeal.
Very.
And sometimes the landscape was like a performer in itself. It was a part of the scene. We couldn't do the scene without what we had there. And you don't have that everywhere. And I definitely went through like, rich Berkshire girl, not that I'm rich, but like definitely rich in the fact that like I lived there, like among those people come there to vacation, and I just got to be there all the time, 24/7, like surrounded by gorgeous, insanely gorgeous mountains and beautiful hiking and like natural crystal fed lakes that I could swim in by myself, like just things that my city friends would visit and have never experienced before.
Yeah, I mean, it was so naturally beautiful. Just like your views of like mountains are completely covered with trees
Yeah.
from your apartment. Like, it was just such a really special thing. I think like the river scene we did was so influenced by like the nature around us. Like, if it wasn't there, I don't know where we could have done that, you know?
I think that we could shoot that today, like when you said like what were you expecting, for me it's always like I'm constantly having to toe the line between can I get away with this? Do people want to see it? Because a lot of the BDSM shit I want to do, people don't. It's too extreme. I'm like constantly my whole career being told to tone it down, tone it down, tone it down. So can I do waterboarding with Chelsea Poe in a river? Can I do
Hell yeah.
that? We're gonna try, and I think it's the best scene in the whole movie.
That bullwhip was so fucking scary. That was like the one part of that movie that I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, that was great. I feel proud of my skills as a dom when I look back on it, the whole thing. I
It
feel like
definitely set me up for like the rest of my career to be like, okay, I can tap into this stuff. Because like as you said in the project, you were like, I want to give you the skills to be able to sub for any dom you work with. And it literally did, where I feel like that was such a building block for really the rest of my career where I'm like, okay, I can tap into all of that stuff. And really like the psychological part of BDSM that I didn't fully, I think, just understand or grasp at the time, where now that's such a core part of my sexuality. And like, I just feel like I really learned who I was sexually out of the whole experience.
that's really cool.
Yeah, I think I really gained a lot from it. And I just think it's such a special movie, and I really hope everyone revisits it. Hopefully, more screenings screen it again in the future for a 10-year anniversary.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Fucking Mystic has had this crazy run the last year and a half of all these 10-year anniversary screenings. I think we've had like 8 or 9 of them. And I'm just like, it's still going. People still want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that it was 10 years already, but um I still never released the whole film on my website. Like there's
Wait,
places,
what?
yeah, I launched my site so far after that, like so many of the problems on my site were that I couldn't upload really long videos. So it was part of an issue of not being able to put it up where I wanted to, but now I have all these other platforms like my loyal fans and stuff. Like there's places that don't have it, and I would love to re-release it because people should see it. It definitely stands the test of time.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like it really like kickstarted me like being in the BDSM category because that was like always my goal, but before that it was still so limited to you're trans, you have to be in the trans category and now I get
Yeah.
to lose to bigger and better companies. It is crazy to be in the BDSM category because you're up against people who are like legitimate Hall of Famers where it's like, oh, Nina hardly has a movie. There's a movie by,
Yeah,
Angela White did a BDSM movie this year.
we were up against people that had a lot of money and a lot of marketing power. And, but I think that's why we got nominated because you look silly if you, first of all, we got nominated because it's a good film.
For sure.
And second of all, you look silly if this movie came and like did like some mainstream success, what into educational success, had got written about in the Huffington Post. People wrote about it for their
That's
college. Students.
true.
Like it had
Yeah,
really good press and it got into multiple film festivals. If you don't give it at least a nomination, you're a hater. Like
for
like
sure.
you have to give it some shine. Like, yeah, this little stripper chick made it with money that she made fucking doing lap dances.
I know we both literally funded it through sex work. All the money
Yeah,
I put into it was literally just from camming.
yes,
Literally camming for kink.com and being like,
yeah.
if you're not going to shoot it, I'm just going to shoot it. I feel like that's like a big chunk of my career though, is just being like, wait, kink.com won't let me shoot this. Fuck y'all. I'm just going to shoot on my own.
Yeah, yes. Let's just make it. Exactly. Yeah, and that's literally where it came from, the whole movie. I just wanted to do it right. It was really important to me to like I didn't want it to just be like a scene I shot, and it got put
Hmm.
out it about a couple times. Like this is what I tell treasure cams models, if you spend this amount of work creating something, include the time that you spend thinking about it and planning for it, not just the time shooting and then the time editing and the time recovering and all that goes into it,
Hmm.
and spend an equal amount of time promoting it and look where it can get you.
For sure. I think it's just so important because I feel like there's so many people, especially performers who are like, okay, the performance is all it is. And it's like you have to put the time into preparing, you have to put the time into recovering. Like all of this stuff is as important. And I'm just like so glad that we have such a kind of like pivotal movie that whenever anyone asks me about like getting into BDSM or they want to know, I'm like, here, watch this. This will give you a pretty good example just of like BDSM basics of how to get into it and like rules and shit like that.
Yeah, and that's why fans liked it because they never got to see that shit before. They never get to see that. No one films that stuff because they think that people don't care. They think that that should happen off camera, but that's a really interesting part of it. Like how many get ready with me today videos did you scroll on TikTok today? Why not do that with porn? Why can't we do the same thing?
For sure. And I'm so glad we got to do something together over the pandemic afterwards and
Yeah,
just
we
like
got to
really
do a little
continue.
follow up. I didn't, and I thought it was really good. It didn't have as much success because it wasn't as good, and I certainly didn't spend as much time promoting it and marketing it.
It
You
was
know,
also a pandemic movie. I feel like in the moment that was great, but then once we got out of the pandemic, everyone's like, why do I want pandemic shit to remind me of this?
yeah, yeah, totally. And people also, I guess, like the feedback I got was just like, "Cool, when are you doing another movie together?"
Yeah,
you know,
right. Maybe eventually, I don't know. Like,
I don't know what's in the future for me. I can tell you that I have. And I've been feeling really bad about this, but when you approached me about this interview and I started thinking about the timeline of Training of Poe and like when we shot it, when it came out, the time
mhm.
that happened in between, I actually shot something now almost 2 years ago That's a big feature project. That was another docu-porn that's about Seska, who's a mature performer in treasure cams. And
Yeah, she's been on the pod.
yeah, she's awesome. And she
Hmm.
has stories and history. And I filmed her coming to Western Massachusetts and kind of just like her re-entry into the porn world, her re-entry into like the
Hmm.
porn set, that what that's like. And I've been sitting, I had a very serious surgery last year and had a
Yeah.
hysterectomy and complications, and it's been a lot to come back from. So, and leading up to it was a bunch of pain. So it's been on the back burner, that project. But
Hmm.
now, like, now this coming year will be time to sit down and do the same thing I did and like get that movie out because I think it's going to be very special and it needs to be out into the world. It's time.
Yeah. It's so amazing that you're having more stuff come out. Yeah, I feel like we're also so far away from each other that it's not just an easy thing to be like, "Oh yeah, let's quick shoot a movie together over the weekend or something." It's a little bit of yeah, we're about as far as we can be away from each other in the same country.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't, I'm not a stripper anymore. So I can't be like, yeah, I can fund this movie on an extra day of work a week. It's just a little different for me
For
now
sure.
coming up with it. And I'm also like, I don't know if I take this long in between movies, like, I don't know, do people want me to keep making them?
I mean, I think there's always gonna be an audience. I think it's just gonna be about finding it, you know? Like, if you're making one movie every 3, 4 years, I think if that's the pace that works for you, I think that's great. Like, I used to release way more movies, and now I'm like 2, 3 a year. That seems fine. I don't
Yeah.
need to do 4 to 6. Like, I feel like that's a little bit intense. Also, just like my desire to do mainstream porn is so low now,
Hmm.
where I'm like, for me to have sex with a cis man, I'm like, I need to probably get more than my actual rate because I don't necessarily want to do a vanilla sex scene. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, I thought for myself of doing like doing a scene before I officially retire because I'm afraid to say that I officially retire as a performer because something cool might come along and I might want to do it, you know?
I mean, you can always just be like hiatus until there's something you want to do. Like, I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff to retire in this industry.
yeah. I just don't even I think like coming up that I'm going to be taking down quite a bit of my content and
Yeah.
keep the big projects like this, like Training of Poe is never going to come down, but a lot of the little like solo videos and stuff, I'm gonna those you don't get that anymore. You missed a whole era. If you missed it, you missed development. Like you had a long time. You had like 22 years, you know?
Yeah, I think your impact on like the history of porn is so important too, that you were so pivotal to the alt era and then everything you did with your contributions to BDSM is just so important.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, of
Sometimes
course.
like you when you didn't know you were having these iconic moments and you were like really sad and upset, like you don't realize it. You know?
Yeah, it's weird how it comes around because I get a lot of people for Training a Poe who are like, that's a pivotal movie. Um, fucking Mystic's a really pivotal movie and stuff. And then now with the public disgrace scene I had a girl come on the podcast and they're like, "Oh, your work inspired me to get into porn." I'm like, "What movie?" And they're like, "Oh, the public disgrace one you did a year ago." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "That's the one now?" It's
Yeah.
very strange because you think like with your career you're like, "Okay, at this moment," and you almost kind of assume at some point it's like, "Okay, those were the moments," you know?
Yeah, I reflect on it a lot lately, my career, and even all those times at the strip club. And like, I was just reflecting today, like, I got to be a stripper in Springfield the year that Rihanna's Work came out. Just imagine that was
Ooh.
like that. Whatever you're imagining, it was like that. You know?
I think that moment for me was being on stage at AVN when Cardi B was performing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
she was like, I'm more excited to be here than the Grammys on stage. I'm like, this is the moment. This is
I
felt
got
like
to
the peak.
to retire from stripping and become a manager the year that Cardi B saying, I don't gotta dance, I make money. That was like, that was such a good feeling. And like,
Hmm.
I'm so glad to have done that too and to have managed clubs. I don't want to do that anymore.
I can't imagine why.
Strip club life is so fucking chaotic and like traumatic, and there's so much fuck shit that goes on that I don't want a part of at all. It's just too hard to be a good girl, you know? It's too
It's also now like how much visibility sex work is getting in the mainstream, like with Nora winning an Oscar. It's just like fucking so crazy to me. The only other sex worker from my high school was in that movie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she was like on stage at the Oscars and shit. I'm just like, how is this a thing that I know a girl who like helped unionize a strip club in LA who's now on the Oscar stage and still stripping? It's just like so
Wow.
crazy. Or that Beyonce has a song talking about OnlyFans. Like
It's so
it
different
changed so
now.
much since the pandemic, you know?
Yes, it's so fucking different now. It's so like there's no mailing out of DVDs, you know, like that's
No.
happening. I don't even know if we could pull off a screening tour for a 2 hour movie. I don't think people even have the attention spans
Oh,
for it anymore.
I think we definitely could. I feel like in some ways it's easier to make stuff now because like honestly, we probably could have made the Training of Poe on iPhones now
Oh
and get
yeah,
as good a footage.
I know.
Like it would have been a lot easier now.
Yeah,
And I feel like the overhead's a lot lower. It's just being like, okay, being committed enough to an idea to be like, okay, I'm gonna spend instead of we spent quite a decent amount of money on this movie. I feel like it would be more like, okay, we're gonna spend $300 to $500 and let's sell 10 movies and we're fine.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's true.
But yeah, I'm so glad we could revisit this movie and like talk about all the shit we were going through in life and how it literally like took us from times where we were dealing with such heavy ass shit to
Yeah.
literally meeting the people we were gonna marry.
And still
Yeah.
making movies. Like we're both still making movies. I just think
Yeah.
when you really think about like porn or mainstream or indie, to be a filmmaker and to turn a profit from your films
Yeah.
and to get films screened and to get your films accepted to film festivals and to get people to buy them, that's all like huge, huge accomplishments that we probably
We
do not
did.
give ourselves enough credit for because
Definitely not.
for those things that we have, you know? A lot of people make movies and wish people would watch them. We're really lucky.
It's really meaningful. Um, well, where can everyone like find you on socials? Obviously, you can buy The Training of Poe on my website, your website. It's on all the streaming sites, so Hot Movies, AEBN,
Clips for sale.
Adult Video, Empire. I think Pink Label. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the places. It'll be more places, I guess, I think, coming up. You can find me listed pretty much everywhere as Bella Vendetta. Um, I take all of these skills of marketing and organization now, and I run treasurecams.com, my webcam studio. Um, and it's very funny. I was actually just talking to a male porn performer about how new porn performers don't like for me, and I think also to you, and probably what attracted me to you was that, and this is actually probably to do with coming up in like the metal scene or the alternative
Yeah.
music, um having respect for your elders and like knowing who came before you was really important, and like knowing who the porn stars were that I look up to, and I feel like that's a little lost now. Like
A little bit.
there's definitely people in my own studio who don't even know that I made this movie and like, don't even have any fucking idea that it exists and that it won these awards or like,
But some of them were in like literally probably like high school when that movie came out.
yeah,
Where like sometimes I talk to people on here and I'm like, and they're like, oh yeah, like I graduated in like 2017. I'm like, fuck, that was like halfway into my porn career at that point.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, sometimes people do that. I always go by music. Oh, I was in middle school when this song came out, and I'll be like, I remember learning like twerking upside down on stage to this song. You know, like, we are not the same It was very different.
I feel like there's still like a lot of influences. Like whenever I like bring up on here, I'm like, who are your people that got you wanting to be a performer? I think most people still have them. It's just like way more recent where it's like that girl being like, "Oh yeah, your public disgrace scene that you shot a year ago." Just like, holy fuck, I'm fucking old now. That's something I did a year ago was someone's reason for getting into porn.
Yeah, it's wild. But it's not just that, it's that people can see that you've been successful for a long time. They don't even know what at, but they know that you've been for a long time and that you're good at it and people know who you are, like it's important. You've done stuff in the industry no one else has done. That's what they know.
I'm just I'm just trying to be a slut on camera. All the activism was just to enable that, honestly. Like all of this shit was I sometimes think about this. I'm like, what if Kink.com was just like, yeah, sure, Chelsea, we'll put you in a public disgrace scene or training of O. I'm like, I would have probably been in porn for way less because I had to do it all on my own and be like, okay, I have to find people to collaborate with, like this
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Like they made me into a porn producer because they wouldn't do their own shit.
I think of there was times in the early days of Burning Angel when like Burning Angel started to get a little bigger and they thought that they might pay other people to direct for them. And so they asked me to pitch some ideas. And I remember coming up training of Poe. It wasn't Poe,
Hmm.
but this lifestyle training thing was like one of the ideas that I had. And it was like, that is scrap next. Like it was just like not even an option at all. And I had this like great idea for like a cooking show porno that I wanted to do. I still want to do that one. But yeah, like I didn't get the opportunities, to make the stuff I wanted to make. I had to redirect it and make what I could make with my friends.
But Burning Angel came out of that same thing, right? Because Joanna didn't get accepted to Suicide Girls. So it's like all these porn projects just start forming out of other porn projects saying no to you. It's very, very strange.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I hope everyone can check out our movie. I'm so glad that we were able to talk about this because there's never like these retrospectives like we did the movie, it came out. I feel like the last time we really talked about it was when we did all those screenings in 2017. So it's really
Well,
special.
thanks for letting me chat about this with you and having me on. And it was great, great to revisit it.
And thanks everyone for listening.